Interesting, or maybe just a weird fact, I don't know, you tell me. This is the first time that I'm recording a review at 3 AM. And I have to admit, it feels a little bit weird, but what better use of my time than doing something that I really enjoy? And since I can't sleep anyways, that's definitely not the worst idea. And yes, I just noticed a few seconds ago, the camera has a little bit trouble with the shirt. But let's get to the review of the Dell Latitude 5179. A 10.8-inch convertible, and there are two available keyboard docking stations, which I will get to in just a minute. So first of all, the tablet. As you can see here, this is the tablet, not super thin, but it has a big battery, so that is fine with me. The back is just plastic and it is a little bit flimsy, and the whole device creaks and bends quite a lot, so it doesn't really feel all that sturdy. Here we have the fingerprint reader, since this is the security version, along with an SD card reader. In terms of ports, we have USB Type-C, USB 3.0, micro HDMI, one of the two speakers, a microphone, volume rocker, and the headphone jack. Here we have the power button on the top, and on the right side we have the Windows button. Underneath this flap we have a SIM card tray and a micro SD card. Unfortunately just micro SD, but that's something quite common. And as you can see, this flap doesn't always properly close all the time. The second speaker and the canceling lock, of course. On the bottom we have the whole port for the docking station. As you can see, the bezels aren't super small, but you will need the space to hold on to, so that is fine. It's not really lightweight, but it has a big battery, so I'm quite fine with that. So let's get to the first keyboard docking station. As you can see here, it simply attaches by pressing onto it, and it will be recognized, so this works fine. As you can see, it attaches. It has a little bit of a wobble, as you can see here, but due to the mechanics, that just is the way. Of course, as you can also see here, the angle is limited to this, because otherwise, if you go a little bit further, the device would flip over. So that's a little bit of a downside, because the keyboard itself is really nice and it has an actual additional battery of 25 watt hours. So in total you have 65, since the device itself has 35. What about the keyboard itself? The good thing here is we have two levels of backlight, which is nice because the backlight itself is definitely bright enough, and the whole keyboard itself works really, really nice because we have still a solid amount of key travel. It is very, very quiet, as you can hear. Typing experience was absolutely fine. It is a little bit cramped at first, but you will get used to that. And I didn't really have a problem with that. It's not quite on a real Latitude device level, but it is quite good. The trackpad, not super big, but a good amount of friction, so not too grippy, not too slippery, and it works quite precise. Like I said, the one a little bit of caveat of this solution would be that the angle is fixed, but that's pretty much it, and I get why. On the back we also have a stylus that unfortunately for me for some reason didn't work. Sorry. Okay, that's it for that. Let's get to the second solution, and that one would be this kind of a little bit off looking thing, but it works pretty much the same. You detach it or attach it like this. And one thing that I will mention, the magnets aren't super strong, because sometimes it didn't get quite accepted as well. And as you can see here, once this magnet attaches this, it will be recognized. But since, as you can see here, this isn't super tight due to maybe the curve here, this is one of my complaints, because this is just too loose. We have a kind of surface-like kickstand, as you can see here already. And this one works really great because we have a lot of amounts of available angles, so this is good. But in terms of the keyboard, it is flat, so no angle here. But the keyboard itself also is really, really good, because it has almost more travel than the other keyboard has. Super quiet as well, good layout, so really nice to type on if you can live with the lower angle. But therefore you have the benefit of the bigger adjustment in terms of the angle, but it's also not the best solution because you can't really pick it up so easy like that, and the mechanism just doesn't work all that great, but it is quite good. And the same goes for the trackpad. Good, it's pretty much the same as on the other dock. So I would like to get to the display here, and as you can see here, it gets quite bright. Of course it doesn't look that bright, this is due to the camera, but it doesn't get super low. So not super dim, could be actually too bright for some people. It was fine for me though. Outdoor visibility should be fine, but keep in mind that it is glossy, so this will still be a little bit of a hindrance. The display itself is really, really nice, 1080p, 10.8 inches, but think of one thing, don't forget to disable all the battery saving functions if you want a quite accurate display, because here the whites are nice, the blacks are quite deep, and as you will be able to see, there's pretty much no backlight bleed at all. There was a little bit at the bottom, but nothing that bothered me at all, so all is good here. Now the colors are the one thing that, because if you don't disable all the battery saving functions, it will boost according to the displayed content the contrast a lot or shift the brightness here and there. And I notice especially on my videos that things look just completely off. So once you disable those things, you will get a really nice display. Colors are definitely not dull at all. They are not super oversaturated. They are very, very accurate. The viewing angles are also nice. So it is a really high quality display with a little bit of an unnecessity with some unnecessary battery saving functions. Okay. The next thing would be the sound, and let's check that one here. The two speakers are on the sides, which is quite good because they reflect quite nice, and it is a very loud speaker system, so it works really well. We have, as we can see here, the Dell audio software, and if you go into it, you should just leave it at max sense and on, then it works already best. You could adjust a few other things, but I would recommend you not to do so, because otherwise the same thing will happen that usually happens already on Dell devices. The sound gets a little bit distorted on not perfect high quality sound and at higher volumes. Other than that, the maximum volume was nice. As I said, there is a nice rich bass for a tablet, definitely solid mids, and the highs are quite clear, but those are the ones that due to the software tend to distort a little bit. If you would disable the Dell audio software though and get rid of the distortion, you will have a very weak sound. So I still think it's a let's say average sounding speaker that is just boosted a little bit beyond its limits. So let's get to the performance then, and here I have to say, first of all, in terms of SSD speeds, 530 read speeds are absolutely fine, all is good here. The write speeds maybe not something super spectacular, but for a tablet for this caliber it should be absolutely fine. And the performance is absolutely nice because, as you can see here, Chrome works absolutely top without any issues, and multitasking works fine. You could jump between all the apps really nice. With 8 GB of RAM, you should get no trouble for all the usual business tasks. Of course, keep one thing in mind, this is a Core M, so meant for short bursts of turbo boost, so especially good for browsing the web and getting office stuff done. This is not really meant for video editing, even though this would be possible, and I did an extensive heavy load test and it didn't really throttle at all. After like 30 minutes, it reached a core temperature of 80 degrees and then it like throttled, if that could be called throttling, 100 megahertz. So I would say that's not throttling at all. So it could keep the temperatures down. Like I said, a maximum of 80 degrees on the core, but the good thing here is the device itself only here in the middle got a little bit warm to about 40 degrees. This is something that I measure with my temperature gun, but you could use it in your hand without any issues at all because it got nowhere near where your hands were. So this was really, really nice. Also, noise is not an issue at all because there was no call while or anything like that. So about the battery, charging time was 2 hours and 35. And yes, as you can see on the stats, it took really 45 minutes for the last 2%. This is either a thing of Dell devices in general or of Windows devices. I can't really judge because I usually just review Dell devices. Battery life itself though was quite good because we have a 44 watt hour battery, and if I set something different, then this is my mistake, because here we can see the two batteries. It is a 34 watt hour battery, and the one in the docking station is a 25. So you get a total, if you use this as well, of 60 watt hours. But just the tablet on its own got me around, I would say, very close to 5 hours to even 5.5 hours with a brightness of 40%, which is really, really good, but it is a quite big battery. So with the whole unit, you could actually even get something between 8 and 9 hours. And if you use a lower brightness, that is absolutely fine. You could use 20 or even 30%. You could get like 10 hours out of this device. So it should be good for a total heavy business day. It's maybe not something super spectacular because you still have to think this is a very big battery, in the Core M doesn't seem to be that efficient, because if this would have been a smaller battery, because after all the device is quite heavy and chunky, maybe the battery life wouldn't be that good. So this is a caveat. In terms of software, as I already showed, there is the Dell software for the audio and so on. And since this is a Dell Latitude device, you will get some added security bonus and security support for the business user. Now, let's get to my conclusion of this device. For the current street price here in Germany, I think it's definitely overpriced. Of course, you pay a lot extra for the Dell support in terms of a business user with some additional function and the fingerprint reader, SD card reader and all that. But I'm pretty sure that if you live, for example, in the US, you will be able to find this device a lot cheaper, because just look at the device itself. The build quality may be not that great, but you get a good amount of ports, especially something like a full-size USB 3.0 port is something that you don't really see anymore on these devices. You also get the optional keyboard dock with a battery, or the other one if you want to decide. So both maybe are not perfect. Both are a little bit of an imperfect solution, but I personally would go for this because it is not that heavy, but it gives you an extended battery and it feels solid, and it's more like a proper, if we take that off, a proper laptop solution, because this is still something more common if you use it like this. It's not a super lightweight, super compact version then, but it is very, very capable. And as I said, the display is absolutely solid. The sound is actually quite good, even though it shouldn't even need to be for a business device. Then there is the performance that I think for all the business tasks should be more than fine, should satisfy anyone, and I don't see this as a deal breaker at all. And the battery life was solid, especially with the keyboard dock. You should get through the hardest days. Software was solid, so nothing really to complain about. I still think the value is not perfect, and especially in terms of build quality, they could have made something a little bit better, but that is one of the trade-offs. So in overall, it's not my first choice. I think it is, for the size of the display, a little bit too heavy and a little bit too bulky. But if you need something that really lasts for a long time and is a solid device and just not too big in terms of the 2 dimensions here, because this is still a quite compact one, not in terms of thickness though, then it is a viable option. And like I said, you will be able to find this somewhere else a lot cheaper. So pros and cons will be listed, and then it's something that you have to decide if it works out for you. But on its own, it doesn't really make too much wrong. If I would have to pick something that is my main caveat here, it is, after all, the build quality. The rest actually is quite solid. So this would have been my review of the Dell Latitude 5179. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Subscribe to the channel for more, and soon also more Inspiron devices again. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below, and I wish you a nice day. Until next time, bye.